It's time for the Voice of Reason podcast. Here are your hosts, Sean Phillips, Andy Van Beber, and Travis Kirkendall.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining us live. Today is January 30th, the great year of 2025. We have made it. Things are good. We are about a week and a half into the presidency of second two-time presidency of WWE Hall of Famer Donald James Trump.
The WWE Hall of Famer.
Yes, his most important accolade that he's recognized for. But no, things.
Also say hello to our friends on TikTok tonight too. We don't get to stream live on TikTok too often, but hello to our friends on TikTok.
Yeah, and before we kind of kick the show off, first and foremost, I would like to pay our respects to those who lost their lives in the tragedy. From what I have seen, looks like the count is up to 65 was the last number that I saw. Obviously could go higher, could be lower. Lots of unconfirmed with the American Airlines and the Black Hawk helicopter accident over the Potomac in Washington, D.C. For us, this hits a little closer to home, not necessarily right here in Missouri, but our neighbors to the west in Kansas. There looks like the American Airlines flight was out of Wichita.
Yep.
And, these are... any accident is extremely unfortunate. Again, the internet's going to internet, and I have seen conclusion jumping as to what happened. And the unfortunate thing is, I don't know if we will ever know exactly what happened with the helicopter and its path into, from what I have seen, at least what I have picked up on, is the pilots of the airplane were doing everything right. They were cleared for landing, which is what they were going to do. And I did see one post that was kind of interesting, because the one thing that I'm seeing are a lot of people are questioning the route of the helicopter, and the video footage that we do have. It almost seems as if the helicopter is just kind of going straight for the airplane when it makes contact. And some of the things that I've read, again, I'm not a helicopter pilot, definitely not an airline pilot, but from what I'm seeing is it's very possible that if you are an airline, if you're a pilot of a fixed wing and you're in a airplane, you cannot see below you.
No.
And if you are the pilot of a helicopter, you cannot see above you. And they think that this might have just been a situation where it was the unfortunate perfect storm of one lowering, one rising on path, where they did not see one another, where the helicopter, if they're looking straight forward, would not have seen the plane come down, and vice versa. The airplane pilot would not have
just
seen,
you're right,
able to see.
Line of sight, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
that's rough.
Yeah,
and
and
I saw that came across my feed last night, and then when they released the video this morning, I was just like, that was hard to watch. I mean, that was just
65 Americans,
figure skating team,
and and that's that's one of the things is I've seen a couple names. I don't know how many members of the United States Olympic figure skating team. It looks like there was I don't know if they're American citizens or if they were just coaches, but two individuals from Russia who had
Right.
won
There were two
gold
Russian
medals
coaches,
in
right?
figure skating. They were American coaches
Yep.
now, it looks like. And
Yep.
so tragic all the way around. There's that video that's circulating that was heartbreaking, and shame on the reporter and shame on the news station where they're interviewing a young man my age or younger, and his wife, who is apparently on that flight, terrified of flying. She had sent him a text previously saying that they were descending, and she could now, send a text. And his response is him texting her, "We're going unanswered." And the reporter's like, "Hey, can we see the text? Can we see the text?" While they're interviewing this guy, and you can just tell, like, in a state of shock. And
yeah, that's
yeah.
there was a story out today. I haven't read the story. It came up on my feed about one of the skaters who had some kind of circumstance that he had to skip off the. He didn't get on the flight. I didn't see all the details of that yet, but yeah.
Who is that? Say that again.
It was one of the guy who was supposed to fly with him out there in Kansas. It was one of the people in the skating team. So I have to look that up. Yeah, one of our listeners just said it just sucks. Doesn't really seem like any pilot was at fault, and I hate when reporters do that. Yeah, the predatory, almost as bad as funeral or ambulance chasers. So that was shocking. I mean, and that was off of that video was actually off of what they call earth cams that they have mounted throughout. It's just like one of those community. There's I can't think of the name of the website. It may be EarthCam. I used to follow it, and you could just do live shots all over the world. And I think that's where that came from, was just off of one of those EarthCams. So, but man, yeah, that was really rough. I think that thank you, Shelly, on TikTok. Thank you. I miss seeing you too, pal. I guess we're gonna dive. This has been. I don't know about you, Sean, but this has been a whirlwind of a week. 11 days since the inauguration. Just the sheer magnitude of executive orders and the things that Donald Trump has done over the last 11 days. Was I correct in hearing that he had pushed through over 350 executive orders?
Wouldn't surprise me.
That number just really. I guess I shouldn't say that it was that shocking, but in an article that I read by Rolling Stone, it was an editorial this week. Of course, Rolling Stone kind of leans to the left a little bit, but and then Jon Stewart kind of echoed this on the Daily Show on Monday, that a lot of what is being done right now is basically, Rolling Stone called it Trump psychology. It's getting into the heads. It's purposely rattling liberals to no end, and it's working because all you're seeing is a lot of your mainstream media talking about how he's being fascist and he's being dictator and authoritarian and people know that I'm not a Trump fan, but at the same time, kind of the response that I have to give to this is the majority of Americans elected him.
Yeah.
And what he's acting on, what he's doing right now is within the purview of the democratic process. He's not violating the Constitution. He's, it's hard, but it's hard for a lot of people to really swallow what's, and I think some of the stuff that we want to kind of touch on, I guess, tonight is just, first of all, earlier in the week, Trump attempted to have, it was like 2 C-130s were turned away from Colombia, trying to take some bad guys who criminals, and Colombia denied them the right to land, and then Trump came out on, I believe it was Tuesday, saying we're going to impose a 50% tariff on all Colombian goods. We're going to put a halt to all visas of all foreign nationals who are wanting to come in to the United States, and then so on Wednesday, no, yeah, on yesterday, Colombia started allowing flights to land, but land in Colombia again. And then last night, Sean and I were talking about this last night. I actually called him because I wanted to get his, and this is kind of where we're going to park at for a little bit, just to talk about this. But his plan now is to extradite, to basically, until we can find a better place to put them or send them back, adding 30,000 beds at Guantanamo Bay. I had the quote brought up here by BBC. What Trump said, it was a signing ceremony he did in the East Room of the White House. Trump said that the new Guantanamo executive order would instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing a 30,000 bed facility. And then the direct quote is, "Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back," he said, "of migrants. So we're going to send them to Guantanamo. It's a tough place to get out." So, Sean, why don't you give us a little bit? You have a little bit. Well, I guess first of all, share with the audience what your experience is from your time at Gitmo, and then kind of the impossibility of all this.
Yeah. No, so 30,000 is hilarious. There is absolutely no way in hell that 30,000 people will be going to lovely Guantanamo Bay. It's just physically not possible. I've been on that island. I lived there for a year. I don't know where 30,000 people, where you put them. Now, even if you went back to the day where they were stacking people in dog kennels, you're just not fitting them. I don't think there's a good chance Trump's never been to Guantanamo Bay. I don't really think he understands exactly how the facility works. So right now, just based off a quick Google search, according to the internet, how accurate this is, couldn't tell you. I haven't been there in almost 10 years, and like 2 years it'll been 10 years. And but there's 15 detainees there now, as according to Google. 15. Okay, so if you think that you're going to go from 15 detainees to 30,000 overnight, you're fooling yourself. And it's not even a matter of the 30,000 individuals, but there's no building in Guantanamo Bay that is sizable for 30,000. There's not even close to sizable for 10,000. Realistically, maybe with the way that the facilities are, at least when I was there, 1,000, and that's like pushing it. Really, it would just depend on camps that have closed that they'd have to reopen. But again, these are camps that could have been closed for the last 10, 15 years. Like, who knows what kind of shape they're in. And then it also just comes down to the logistics of it all. Like, who's going to feed these people? Like, heck, when I was there were like 3, maybe 4 chow halls on the entire installation. And like, prisoners were fed hot A's. There's a place where all the food gets cooked, and the meals get delivered and stuff like that. So just for the sake of the logistics of it, like, how are you going to feed these people? Who's going to cook that food? Who's going to take care of that? You definitely don't have, you're not just moving 30,000 migrants there. Like, you have to have the staff, and Guantanamo Bay does not have the staff for 30,000 criminal illegal aliens. So it's wishful thinking. I trust me, I'm the first to tell you I wish that Guantanamo Bay could get more use. It's there. It's a nice facility. I enjoyed my time there. Not that I enjoyed babysitting terrorists the whole time. But Gitmo for me, was a very welcoming experience living there. But again, it just comes down to the logistics of it. How you get the 30,000 there is beyond me, and where you put them in a spot where it's safe and humane. Now, I don't know if he's thinking about dumping 30,000 migrants into, putting up some field wire and couple, you could probably fit 30,000 people in, a little bit of space out there. But for the way that Americans do things, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I'm looking here on military.com. I just pulled this up, and it says that Guantanamo right now can only hold 130.
That sounds very accurate, because again, a lot of it's just kind of need to know stuff, but Gitmo, at least to my best knowledge, what I remember is there was one actual prison facility, and it's not large. It's not a big prison. It's not a prison that you would see like a state prison or anything like that. Like it's meant to maybe hold 100, maybe 200 people. That is pushing it, and that's just my memory. Like my memory could be wrong, and it could be 50 people. But then the way that the other camps are broken down and spaced out, it just logistically these camps are only meant to house a couple, some of the larger camps, like maybe a dozen people, like maybe. But they were using that's just not how it works out there. So again, where they think 30,000 fellas are going, it's beyond me.
Well, so within the last week, there have been, I'm getting ready to sneeze. ICE agents have arrested over 5,000 basic illegals who have violent criminal records, who have, for example, Aurora, Colorado, which we've seen a lot about Aurora, Colorado, and how the Venezuelan ICE went in there and cleaned house, and some of the things that they were pulling out of Aurora, some of the things that they were pulling out of those apartment complexes, just the amount of drugs that they were pulling out of there, the amount of, and then, they showed some raids. I think it was out in Cincinnati. There was one guy I saw a video of it was on MSNBC, this black Haitian that they had arrested in Cincinnati who was basically a sex offender, I guess, and he was, and he's just like, F Trump, oh, I miss Biden. I was just like, wow. But, I mean, what do you, I'm speechless at this, the fact that they were able, let me back up. I think that when you see this and you say, okay, first of all, how is there over 5,000 illegal criminals who are finding sanctuary? They're going, and where they're pulling them from are these sanctuary cities. They're pulling them from these sanctuary cities, that are, I mean, Chicago, Boston, Austin, Texas, San Francisco, Aurora. I mean, all of these sanctuary cities. I mean, is it just me? Is there something wrong with that picture that we've allowed for five? I mean, illegals are one thing, but these are people with violent criminal histories that are here in this country that have been protected by these sanctuary cities. I mean, am I wrong in thinking is there something wrong? How does something like that, how has that happened?
That's a good question. Well, and to kind of, pivot to where it kind of stemmed from is I'm on the cbp.gov website right now, actually. And this is criminal non-citizen statistics. So these are arrests of individuals with criminal convictions
that are illegal.
that are illegal. Illegal. It doesn't specify by type. However, okay, so from FY 17, 18, 19 to 20. Okay, so when Donald Trump was originally president.
Mm-hmm.
In FY 17, you have 8,500. The number drops to 6,600, to then 4,200, and his final year as president to 2,400. Now, from when Biden's first year in office to his last year in office, take a look at these numbers. So first year in office, 21, 10,700.
Wow.
FY22, 12,000. FY23, it jumps to 15,000, and in FY24, 17,000. So clearly the writing is on the wall, and I would say that it has felt like, now the term sanctuary city has been around for a while, but I definitely think that over the last couple of years with different federal legislation and just kind of how I feel like in a lot of these, more sanctuary cities, naturally you're going to have a lot more Democratic leadership. But due to some of the, I guess, lack of authority when it comes to illegal immigration, you have these sanctuary cities that have kind of run amok, and I feel like this last year, so leading up into, and New York was one that really kind of stuck out to me.
Yep.
Is that typically this is an area that has Democratic leadership, but they were talking like this past year, they were just like, you hear some of those mayors talk, they're like, what do you want us to do anymore? Like, the word was always, oh yeah, bring them here, whatever. You had the mayor of New York going like, no one else can come here. We don't have, there's nothing. All the resources are gone. So it doesn't surprise me that in some of these larger sanctuary cities, not all of them, you have individuals in, Minnesota that are threatening to, having their state militia go after ICE members. But you take some of these larger sanctuary cities where, on the surface, I think a lot of them, say whatever they need to say to get the vote that they want. But realistically, these actions are speaking louder than words because they realize there is a legitimate problem. And it is time that action is taken and these individuals are getting deported. But, again, we're getting to that point now, too, where what does it say, when these individuals are getting deported and their own countries don't want them back,
right?
And they don't even want to go back to their countries.
Right. What's that? What is that? What? That's what I don't get. Okay, so if you're a Colombian national and you've been convicted in America, and you're here illegally. I mean, that's beyond, that's that's called an inherent power. Any sovereign nation has inherent powers that are naturally given to any sovereign power. Okay, so it is a sovereign. It's constitutional, but it is also a sovereign power of any nation to deport any. And when I say undesirable, I'm not talking about they're this. I'm saying undesirable meaning convicts, people who have violated the law.
Mm-hmm.
It is the inherent right of that nation to be able to deport them to wherever, back to their home country. And people look at this and they're like, oh, this is terrible. But I pulled up, so here are your top sanctuary cities that now were made where they've had a lot of arrests. So you mentioned New York City, Eric Adams, who he's dealing with all of his own stuff. I just remember the video of Eric Adams like 4 years ago compared to last year. He's like, well, we welcome these, these migrants with open arms, and then last year how he made the statement how it's costing the city so much money and all this stuff and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so New York City, they're seeing a lot of arrests. Chicago, JB Pritzker, our very own governor there, he said, I am not against, he came out on the record and said, I'm not against deporting illegal or people who are of violent crimes, but people who are obeying the law, which I thought was kind of an oxymoron. They're here illegally, but he said people who are here obeying the law, okay. You mentioned Los Angeles. Los Angeles late last year, I don't know if you remember this or not, but it was right after the election. Los Angeles, the city council pushed for and got sanctuary city status. They became a sanctuary city late last year. Philadelphia, another sanctuary city. Phoenix, San Diego, Denver, Miami, Atlanta, like I said, Austin, Texas, Seattle, and even in San Juan, it says San Juan, Puerto Rico. So, I mean, it's the number of
take them
these,
where you can get them.
Well, and it still blows my mind, though, how, and 10,000, the name of I keep on forgetting the name of that young lady in Georgia, the University of Georgia student who was killed by
Laken Riley.
Yeah. Okay. Laken Riley. And Donald Trump said, that if this had been taken care of, the first time, if this would have been dealt with the right way, we wouldn't even be having these discussions. But to say we're going to eliminate illegal bad people who are here, that's a good thing. Now, I kind of want to take this into a different direction, though. One of the things that is going on within our own state here in Missouri is right now they're going through the Missouri Senate is a bill that is called the Bounty Bill. Okay, this was proposed by State Senator David Gregory. David Gregory is the state representative from Chesterfield. That is his constituency. So in this bill that is being, again, if you want to have raids in Missouri, have raids in Missouri and take out people who are doing violent crimes. But this bill is really, I think, is a slippery slope bill, because it says this bill would award a $1,000 bounty for tips that result in the arrest of a person in the United States without authorization. And this guy, he's Republican from Chesterfield. He wants to authorize bounty hunters, usually employed by bail bondsmen, to catch these people, to track people down and identify it in tips. So what this is going to, and this is, like I said, this bill. So this bill is actually in what is it? It is in the Senate Transportation, Infrastructure, and Public Safety Committee right now in Jefferson City. And what a lot of the voice that's coming from the Democrats is saying it's encouraging people to make reports based on skin color or English proficiency. And I think there's a difference between saying, okay, we're going to go after these dangerous criminals who are here illegally and they're here, and then because there's part of me that says, okay, we have people who are here on green cards, we have people who are here on visas, and maybe they've overstayed their visa, or maybe they have come here illegally and they've made their way up. There's part of me that's saying, okay, let's, instead of trying to say, well, we're just going to push them all out. The poem that was in the base of the Statue of Liberty that was written by Emma Lazarus that said, give me your tired, give me your, you're weak, you're weary, those destined to be free. Okay. We've had this conversation with Travis, our friend Travis. The immigration system is totally busted. But targeting, like I said, targeting illegals who are criminals, who are violent past is one thing. But just going open slate and saying, let's shove them all out. To me, is almost ultra nationalist, and it can create I'm afraid of a bill like this coming up in other states, and something like this just creating a problem. I mean, there was a raid that just happened in ICE did a raid. I don't know if you had heard this or not, Sean, but ICE did a raid in Troy last Saturday, and they went to public housing, which is funded by NECAC, which is Northeast Missouri something something something, but it's federally funded housing that is done through grants, and it goes through Missouri. And NECAC made a statement: there are no illegals who are lit. We went through a vetting process, and there's no illegals living in any of our housing authorities. And they did a raid on Saturday, and they found 15 illegals in NECAC housing down in Troy. So, I mean, to what extent should this? For you, where do you think the dividing line should be on how far this deportation movement should go? Unmute yourself first.
I think it maybe, needs to start kind of like like a snowball, or maybe like reverse snowball, where when we talk mass deportations, I think it does need to start with your individuals that have committed serious crimes, your murderers, your rapists, your thieves, the individuals that are in prisons who have actually broken the law. Okay, that is where I think you need to start. Okay, and then you need to go, okay, and those are the people that you have in custody. Then you need to go back and say who are these catch and release individuals that have broken the law,
right,
stabbed someone, and then they're out in the street 6 days later, because those people exist, regardless of like how many people want to splice. They don't. They're real, and they are repeat offenders. And the point of emphasis needs to be made to find those people and eradicate them from our society. Doesn't mean kill them. It means get them the fuck out of here.
Right. Right.
And that is a restart. Now, again, mind you, I am not big on, just willy-nilly just getting people out of here. I think that if you have an individual, like let's say there's people that might be nested, you give them the option, say, hey, you make the process feasible, but it's like, hey, you have 60 days to obtain your United States citizenship, or you are out of here, or you have 30 to 60 days to obtain a legitimate or renew a work visa. Like you have to give people time, naturally. Like if they're not out here breaking the law, if they're being functional, fully, if they're contributing to society, then absolutely. Because here's one of the issues that I have, that I've kind of seen, where and this is, let me rephrase this. I don't know how, I'm not going to say that this is true. I would have to see fact checking. I would actually have to see other statistics other than just like photos and stuff that I see tweeted. But we are seeing a lot of like manufacturing jobs. I've heard about a couple fast food places. I've heard a lot of restaurants. I've heard construction, where all of a sudden you have people that aren't showing up to work because they live in fear of being deported. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're
right.
like people that are literally in hiding. You have all these work sites. So what that tells me more than anything is that there needs to be a serious crackdown on these employers to ensure that you are paying people fair wages, that you are paying individuals that are going to be paying taxes. And I'd be interested to see how much of this, because what it tells me is that you have, let's just say a construction company, for example. Like I saw a post about how there was a construction company that had like 4 people on site, and they had a 60-man crew the day before, but they were told that ICE was going to be in the area. So, okay, so you have 56 individuals. Are they making the same amount of money as the other individuals that were working there? Or let's say, does that city have a union rate, but you're getting around the union rate because you're paying 56 illegal immigrants? And what are you paying them? And so
pennies.
And it goes to show, okay, these construction companies have been exploiting these individuals, I can almost guarantee you that they're not charging people around them less. Like, oh no, I could just get you that much of a better deal. No, they're probably still charging market price and making a lot of
Paying
extra
serious
cheddar
pay.
on top while
Right.
paying these illegal immigrants less money. So
Right.
I think what good can happen is, because we look at the job crisis that we have here in the United States, is I'm not opposed to, individuals working and doing their part, paying taxes, becoming functional, thriving members of society. I think that's great to boost the American economy. However, there are jobs that American citizens, and I hate the
Well,
whole like, nah, the American citizens don't want these jobs, blah blah blah. Yeah, they don't want them maybe because they're not paying a livable wage, and these
right.
companies have gotten away with paying illegal immigrations. Like, I guarantee you. So one of the big industries that I would see people working manual labor, and I'll just be honest from my own eye. I'm not saying this how it is on all these places, but when I was living in Los Angeles, and if I went up to like Oxnard, or if I was going up to PCH, I would pass by all these strawberry fields. Okay, all these
Right.
strawberry fields, and I'll be honest with you, you didn't see very many white people working
No.
in those
No.
strawberry fields. But it goes to show, okay, well, this is in California. I know how expensive it is to live in California, and let's say, not in all cases, but for some of these individuals, especially illegal immigrants, you have multi-generational families living under the same building. So if let's say a multi-generation family has to come up with $3,000 a month to pay this mortgage or to pay rent in order for them to live in a 3-bedroom home, which in California would probably be way more than $3,000. But
Yeah. Yeah.
let's just, again, all hypothetical. So yeah, no wonder you might have 8 of those individuals that are working their asses off in the strawberry fields and whatever the local agricultural businesses out there, barely scraping by in order to pay that. But it's because they're all working for, they're not under the same stipulation as California overtime. California overtime is like, at least when I was in Los Angeles, if you worked, if you worked um more than, like, I think it was like 4 hours and you didn't take a lunch break, any time after 4 hours until you took your lunch break, you would get overtime pay. Any time over 8 hours in a single day is considered overtime in California. I can assure you, none of the folks that are in the fields that are picking strawberries are getting that kind of
They're
fucking
not. No.
overtime pay.
No.
No. And so where American consumers are going to see things are, there's going to be a lot of those
There's going to be a spike.
corporations.
There's going to be
There's going to be
a spike in consumer prices too.
there's going to be spikes because those companies have been getting away for far too long with paying unfair wages
Mm-hmm.
to illegal immigrants. Now, what I would like to see is, instead of, okay, let's say I know, an individual that's been here for 5 years, maybe they came on a student visa or work visa, they've been working, they've been a functioning member of society, but because they're illegal, let's say they've been being paid unfair wages. What I want to see is, I want to see those companies say, hey, no, we're going to make a point of emphasis to help you get your citizenship, and now we're going to pay you a fair wage. Because that's how a functioning society should work. Because, hey, if we are getting rid of uh, the illegal immigration problem over a period of time, we have more jobs opening up. We have companies that are paying fair wages. Americans are gonna go take those jobs. They're going to work there as long as the pay is fair. And then you have individuals that are obtaining citizenship, and they are obtaining a job or a career where they are making a livable wage. They are now, when year in, year out, they are functioning members of society. They are not just paying the taxes that are coming off their paycheck. Hell, if they were even getting those kinds of paychecks, they might have been getting handwritten checks. They might have been
Right.
considered independent contractors where they're not doing their taxes year in and year out. Um,
Do you?
so I don't know.
What I'm gathering something from you, from what I'm hearing here, and if I'm going off track from what you're saying, just correct me. But a lot of what I'm hearing though is saying we are, so American businesses are contributing to this problem just as much as anybody else is. I
A
mean,
100%.
because
Yeah,
if we
I think so.
if I mean, I and if there's a some kind of communication pipeline back to wherever illegals are coming from, and it's not, and we need to get past the fact that it's just Mexico. We have illegals coming from,
all over.
all over. Okay, we have illegals coming in from Canada. Okay, and so, but this pipeline that gets back to, hey, we've got to Dole Fruit or Green Giant, or these guys are Del Monte. That's who I was trying to think of. Del Monte, who does, and if you go up around Peoria, Illinois, Del Monte they have these large, humongous green bean fields that, I mean, and you go up there, and it's up where the only reason I know about these is by where my brother-in-law lives, and you can drive up there, and they'll plant 2 or 3 things of crops a year in the summertime, and when it comes harvest time, if you catch them at the right time, I mean, just migrant workers as far as the eye can see, and that, and they're illegals. And you talk to my brother-in-law, and he'll tell you, yeah, they'll take this is what's, I've heard these stories before. They'll take empty semi trucks down across the border, and they'll load these guys up in tractor trailers and haul them back up. So American business is just as guilty as committing to this whole thing as anything else. And in that transportation of illegal people, you're going to get, so herein lies 2 problems mixing in together. You have the illegals who are just coming here to work, and then you have others who are coming here to work and then do horrible things. It's this needs to be more. I guess the point I'm wanting to get at is this needs to be more than just a quick executive order fix. And this is, how long are these ICE raids going to go on for? How long is this movement going to be going on? Because this isn't something, and we had this discussion, I think it was like 3 weeks ago. This isn't something that's going to go away overnight. This isn't going to be something that's going to be fixed overnight. We're making all these ICE raids, and I mean, we're going to just start seeing all of these people. We're just now at the tip of the iceberg right now, seeing if we're going to do 30,000, go back to what we said earlier. So we're going to put 30,000 in Guantanamo. No, you're not. Okay.
Yeah. No, not even close.
We've had that discussion. Okay. So now you're going to create this. If Colombia's starting to take these people, Mexico will probably soon start taking some of theirs back. What are we doing with these people in the meantime? Okay, so we're going to catch a lot of flack from other countries for doing this too, because you're creating a humanitarian crisis. It's just, to me, it's not it needs to be done, but I'm not letting the previous, like you said, those numbers you gave earlier were just phenomenal. You can't let the previous administration off. This is something that has to be addressed, and if we have a Democrat come in the next presidency, or whoever we have come in next, this has to be something that has to be on the front burner, because this isn't going to be. I don't think this is going to be solved in 4 years. I honestly don't. I don't think.
There's no way.
Because when Trump gives his last State of the Union address in 2027 or 28. He's not going to say, well, we've done it, kind of like a George W. Bush mission accomplished thing, I mean, it's not going to be something like that, because you're not going to be able. And so I hope that Donald Trump isn't doing this to just say, well, hey, look, I made my campaign promise. We're getting all these illegals out of here. Look at what's happening. I mean, it has to go beyond that. This has to be more than just a flash in the pan.
No, agreed. I agree 100%.
Yep.
Yeah. And so hopefully there's, as more stuff comes out, I'm interested to kind of see. And one of the funnier things that I saw, kind of before we wrap things up and talk to you guys again here before too long, was So if you remember a couple weeks ago, the crisis that was the drones, where the FBI and the CIA were launching their own investigations, and Trump, one of the first things he did was launch an internal review, and it was exactly kind of what I suspected it to be. And it was, hey man, sometimes we have this thing called the need to know, and it was us the whole time.
It was us the whole time.
And yeah, so, and that just go, it's funny when, like, hey, there's certain departments that don't talk to certain departments. It literally made me think of Sector 7 from the Transformers movies, where there's we don't exist, and that's why I'm able to do these things. Or even better, actually, I was just showing the girls and I were doing our watch. Julian's of the age now where she's able to kind of get it and understand it and enjoy the Spy Kids movies. And if you haven't seen it, in the second movie, the Spy Kids, he is level 2, which means he outranks the president of the United States, which is one of the funnier parts, where there's a 11-year-old kid telling the president what he can or can't do. And I thought love it. And that's exactly what we're dealing with here. Those drones were us. They were, just sometimes, believe it or not, guys, the whole United States does not need to know what our military is doing or whatever our research development. We had this little thing called, I don't know, the Manhattan Project, where it's probably good that not everybody knew about it.
Not everybody knew about it, right?
Yeah, it's okay. Just be happy that, you thought that they were aliens, because if it goes to show you one thing, because all these people were like, I've never seen anything like this. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
There's a reason. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
Well, again, to our listeners, thank you all so much for following us along there on TikTok Live, Facebook, and anywhere else.
We had a large number of people who jumped in. Sorry we didn't get to we had a lot of comments there on TikTok. Sorry we didn't get to everybody. But thanks for everybody joining in tonight.
Yeah, and we will definitely talk to you guys soon. We'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Voice of Reason podcast. Check out our previous shows and clips on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.